Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour Hoops, your one stop shop for enjoying a cold beverage and listening to our ice cold basketball takes. We got you covered on everything NBA all the time.
All the
Today,
time.
me and Jake will be going over free agency, winners, losers, the tweeners, things that we don't understand, things that we understand a little too well. Jake, how you doing today?
Well, we're experts here, obviously, so we understand everything perfectly fine. That's what we're going with. We're good. Let's get right into it because I feel like me and you, right before we get on, we're about to get into an impassioned debate about the
Hmm.
Chicago Bulls and their moves. So let's get right into it. We're going all over the place with free agency, trying to recap. It was not a free agency like we've seen in the past, where it was a lot of like big star moves that were like ground shaking for the NBA, but it was a flurry of moves and a lot of a lot of very important role players on the move all over
Hmm.
the place. Like this is one of the craziest free agencies I remember because of that reason, because all these teams, all the contenders basically have a different makeup next year. And it's going to be interesting to see just how all these pieces fit. We're going to see a lot of new squads, a lot of new teams, maybe some new contenders in there, some old contenders pushing their chips all the way in. But let's not bury the lead here. We were starting off with the Chicago Bulls, who I think have made the biggest, I would say, star splash when you look at the totality of all their moves.
Yeah.
Signing Lonzo Ball 4 years, $85 million. DeRozan 3 years, $85 million. Alex Caruso, the god himself. Now that meme, bro. Exactly. Look at you. You came prepared today. There's always been the meme of Caruso and Jordan, and now it can just really come. I really hope he wears he needs to wear like 45, honestly, onto the court. I
Yeah,
don't know if
that would
45
actually
is
be
tired,
sick.
but it would be legendary. But Donnie, what was your belief? We were also talking about how DeRozan got more money per year than Lonzo Ball. Don't
Yeah.
really understand how that kind of works out. So let's just get into it. What did you think about the Bulls' moves?
Well, first off, definitely a winner. Like you said it, they made, they thanks Ty B for that. They they're for sure winners. They made a big splash in the stardom, like you said, brought in DeRozan, brought in Lonzo. I feel like the Lonzo talks were like dead for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it was like Lonzo to Chicago right now. And it happened. But I do think that's strange that Lonzo didn't get more money than DeRozan for some reason. That's just how my brain is working on those two at their points in their careers right now. I just thought DeRozan would get less money, especially this free agency. I wasn't hearing much about him. I was only really hearing Lakers at first, so I figured he would kind of have to take a team friendly deal going there. But I mean, regardless of who's making more money, that's just me feeling weird about that and wanted to know more. But yeah, I mean, regardless of that, they got two dogs in free agency, and Lonzo and DeRozan, both great pairings to go alongside Levine. I mean, if you have a
Mm,
starting lineup of Lonzo, Levine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic, that's a solid starting five. And then something else we talked about
mm.
before we hopped on, you mentioned it, adding Caruso, still having Kobe White, who has been playing pretty well for them. I mean, they just got a strong starting five, and then first two off the bench. The Bulls could be scary this year. I really like what they did in free agency.
You're not worried about how DeMar DeRozan or DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, and Zach Levine fit together, because I feel like I've seen that a lot. Has been people talking about it, but they kind of what everybody does well. Like Levine's a sharpshooter. Levine is a slasher, can get to the rim effectively. DeRozan lives in the mid range. He has been a really good playmaker too for San Antonio. He's had some high assist games, some triple double games. He wasn't really showing that in Toronto. And Lonzo just kind of does whatever. Lonzo is just a good offensive player. Like he'll do whatever the team wants. I feel like, and Billy Donovan's the head coach there. Look, we saw what he was able to do with those 3 guard lineups with Schroeder and CP3 and Shea there. I feel like those three kind of meshed together. It's a weird construction though of just how they've gotten to all these pieces. They have like no first round picks they can trade going on. So this is kind of the squad, at least for the next 3 years or so. And I think the biggest thing to take away is that LaVine's contract is up next year. They needed to put a contending team around him, otherwise he's going to leave, right? Like why? Like the Bulls kind of saw this, getting Lonzo, getting DeRozan, and trading for Vucevic, regardless of what you think their star level is in the league and what they're held against. This is a team that needs to win and be competitive. It's not always about winning titles for some of these teams. They're on different timelines for different reasons. And LaVine's deal is up next year, and that's a guy they can't. What do they do if they lose Zach LaVine? They don't have first round picks for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
so they kind of had to do everything in their power to get him on board.
Yeah, I agree. If they lose LaVine, they're definitely screwed. But Alex Caruso or Michael Jordan, we might see some real flashes of MJ here from Caruso. We've seen,
maybe he's the
flight. Maybe he's just gonna go MJ sticking out his tongue all the time. But as far as how this starting lineup's gonna fit, I'm with you, dude. Like they kind of have it covered, like all things covered. Patrick Williams is an explosive 4 who I think should start at the 4. I think they will. He can offensive rebound. He doesn't need to be a guy who can create his own shot. They have 3 guys, Lonzo, LaVine, and DeRozan, who can already do that. They have a 4th guy who can do that, Vucevic, who will be in the starting lineup with them. So they have the defensive explosive 4 that every team kind of wants to have or should have. They have Lonzo, the larger point guard, who's extremely capable of playmaking. LaVine, as you mentioned, can literally do anything. I think they'll play very fast-paced basketball, and a lot of teams aren't going to be able to keep up with that. If you have 3 guys who can run the floor, all shoot the jump shot pretty well. Lonzo has his nights where he's cold, but LaVine and DeRozan are pretty knocked down, especially DeRozan in that low post mid-range area. And then you have a stretch 5 who can also bully people on the block. I mean, they just have so many options really to do whatever they want as far as breaking down other defenses. So I'm for this lineup. I don't really see the hate there.
No, I think it's going to be it's one of the more solid starting lineups 1 through 5 in the league now. It is. And it might be a weird mix, but I mean, it really feels like a lot of teams in this league right now are kind of like, there's obviously teams that kind of fit perfectly together, but we have a lot of mismatched teams that have been trying to put things together. Like these are not perfectly well-oiled machines like we've seen the last couple of years from our teams. We have flawed teams. Like Milwaukee all year we thought was a flawed team. The Nets, everybody trying to pick apart their flaw, and how those guys fit together, too much of the ball, whatever. The Sixers with their clearly not working pairing that's happening. The Ben Simmons news. I guess the Sixers are probably one of the biggest losers of this because Ben Simmons has not been traded. Apparently not talking to him. So for their big move, they brought in Andre Drummond, who is literally Joel Embiid's worst enemy. So Sixers loser. We'll start with the Bulls as a winner, Sixers as a loser. Let's come back with another winner though. The Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers. Yes. We were live when Russell Westbrook got traded last week. How was that only a week ago? Doesn't that feel like it was like 3 weeks ago?
I feel like I've already seen Russ play as a Laker.
Shit. We basically have, bro. Russ gets traded, and then the Lakers just sign everybody. We knew they had to fill this roster.
All the vets.
Everybody's coming back. We got Kent Bazemore back in the building. Took less money to play with the Lakers. That was a theme, as Kendrick Nunn also took less money to play with the Lakers for a 2-year deal. Talen Horton-Tucker re-signed. He's back.
I like that.
Malik Monk, who was coming on before he got hurt last year, a nice signing. Wayne Ellington, one of the best 3-pointers in the league. So they're getting the shooting around there. Trevor Ariza, who I can't believe still in the league and now back on the Lakers. I
was gonna say Trevor Ariza is just like a Laker when I think of him.
All the Kobe Laker teams, I feel like Trevor Ariza was always right there.
Yeah, if you think about Kobe's sidekicks, you think Artest, Pau Gasol, but if you think about the background guys, it's just D. Fisher and Ariza in the back of my brain. Those guys to me are just always Lakers. I know Ariza's been all around the league, but for some reason when I think Trevor Ariza, I think Lakers uniform.
Yep. So Ariza's back. Another guy back, Dwight Howard from the team 2 years ago. He's purple for his team. And then who am I forget? Oh yeah, Carmelo Anthony is joining LeBron James for the first time. Signed with the Lakers. So Melo, ESPN's already went crazy with it. It's the big four. It is the big four. It's Russ, AD, LeBron, and Melo. I saw that tweet yesterday. We're gonna get that all year. Carmelo is not at that level at all anymore, but with this roster where he kind of fits in, it's honestly kind of perfect. Like all they really need is just two shooters at the 3 and the 2 around Russ, AD, and LeBron, and they might be set. And they've got a lot of shooters now. I mean, it's a weird roster, but shit, bro. I don't know. I liked it. I like the way it looks right now. Hello again.
All right, I'm back. Back to Lakers. My bad. Yeah. So my thing that I really want to talk about this Lakers team though is one of the few times that I'll stand with LeBron. I mean, I have utmost respect for Bron. Unbelievable. Don't always agree with him, but him clapping back at all the negativity and everything that Lakers fans, Lakers players are hearing about them just getting old players. What is this team? This and that. I mean, while that is all true, they are certainly, they have Marc Gasol, they have Ariza, they have Bazemore, who's sneaky 32. LeBron and Carmelo, 36 and 37. Like, these guys, they do have an old team. But at the end of the day, this team legit has 4 Hall of Famers. I mean, I guess the one up in most question is Anthony Davis, but I think when it's all said and done, Davis is going to be a Hall of Famer. He already has 1 ring. He's probably going to get another. Carmelo's a Hall of Famer in my book, and if Russ isn't a Hall of Famer, that's poppycock. So, at the end of the day, this team literally has 4 Hall of Famers. 4 Hall of Famers. Like, yes, I get it. Like, if you guys normal teams wouldn't do this, but a team with LeBron James isn't a normal team.
Yeah, you can't grade them on that curve. You can't grade a LeBron team on that curve, and you can't grade the Lakers on that curve. It's just different.
Like, yes, fine. Hate on them for having old players. Will they still be in the Western Conference Finals? I'm almost sure of it at this point, barring injury.
They have to be the favorites in the West, right? Like the West.
Oh.
The thing about the West is now, like the top end teams, you look at it from that. No one's going to trust Utah, so let's not even think about that. Phoenix, we saw the flaws in the Phoenix in the NBA final. I mean, obviously they had a great run up to there, but they had a very fortunate run to the NBA Finals. We have to just be honest about that. That Clippers team was not the same without Kawhi. They were exposed more by Giannis just was Giannis. He was just clearly the best player in that series. We should have seen that coming. They got by without AD and no Jamal Murray on the Nuggets too. Like the Suns had a fortunate run. Are they really as good as this Lakers team the way they're constructed right now? I don't think so. And then you look at Murray and Kawhi. Kawhi might not be back the whole year. Jamal Murray's probably not going to be back till at least later in the year. And those are the other teams. And then you would assume the Warriors are going to be in that mix, but who knows what the Warriors are going to, and we can get into them in a second too, because I'm very confused about the Golden State Warriors. But maybe Steph is good enough to get them there, but I still think it's just a clear path for the Lakers. I think it's just a clear path for them in the West right now.
I do want a Steph LeBron Western Conference Finals, though. I think everyone deserves that.
Oh, that would be incredible. Let's get into we'll get to the Warriors in a second though, but we want to answer Slick's question here as we'll get into your boys. The Boston Celtics. He said, what it do? I want your thoughts on what you would do if you were Brad Stevens right now. So if you were Brad Stevens right this second, what would you be doing?
Man, that is a loaded question. First, I would just thank the Jays for being on my team because I think he should be doing that daily and consulting them and asking them whatever they want to do. But since I don't know what those guys want to do, I would be calling Reggie Jackson and finding out what the minimum, what is the minimum, what is the maximum.
How little can we give you to come play for our basketball team?
I mean, essentially, like we don't have room for money right now, so it's hard. It's really hard to say what Brad doesn't have many options. I think you call Reggie Jackson, see if he'll take a team friendly contract. If not, I mean, it's IT, and you're bringing him home, and then you're kind of running this thing back. You have a new coach, which I think the players are excited about. You bring in some old faces and Horford and Cantor. You are going to be relying on the young guys a little more this year, but the young guys that matter, which is Romeo Langford, Peyton Pritchard, and Aaron Nesmith. And then you let the Jays do what they do best, and that's get better every single year and take a step forward every single year. And now it's their team. We don't have a star point guard right now. So I think if you
Peyton
can't make a
Pritchard.
move, right?
Fuck.
Pay, not a star though. I think he's a star. He could be a star in the making, right? But what I mean is, there's no Kyrie Irving personality. There's no Kemba Walker who needs his shots. This is the Jays team, a coach that believes in the Jays. So if you can't go out and get a Reggie Jackson for a team-friendly contract, or if you can't bring in another notable piece that will really shift us the way the Knicks and the Bulls are doing it right now, then you wait until next summer and you let the Jays excel as they do. And you really just hand them the keys and be like, guys, do what you got to do this year. Next season, we're getting Brad Beal. And I mean, that's at least that to me.
That's the play. That's what they're sizing up for, no matter what.
To me, that's just what it looks like. I mean, of course, Brad could have something up his sleeve right now. I will say they're a loser right now. We were talking about a few winners in the offseason. They're a loser. I mean, teams are getting better around them. I like the Josh Richardson signing. But aside from that, I mean, bringing Cantor back, I like Cantor, but doesn't really move the needle. We haven't got that much better. Other teams in the East have. We're a loser, but I'm still excited going into next season.
I like the Richardson thing because it's just a live body that can actually play guard on an NBA basketball in the NBA, which is an improvement on what they were putting out there last year. Yeah,
slasher can help with the fast break. I mean, Jaylen Brown's already top 2 guys in fast break points. Richardson's a guy who can run.
And I think that's Brad adding and Cantor. I like Cantor coming back more than I think a lot of other people do, just because I think that signals to me that Robert Williams is going to be the starter and get 35 minutes a game, which is what we've been waiting for how many years now, right? We were waiting to see that. So I think that's a good sign. I keep forgetting about Al. I just keep forgetting I still think Robert Williams is the starter in your best case scenario.
I hope he is too.
Richardson, Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Robert Williams is your best lineup. It should be your starting lineup.
I agree.
But Reggie Jackson, Boston College alum, didn't realize that, so I was just looking up as we were talking about it. So
that's why I'm high on that. Way more high on the Reggie Jackson than the Dennis Schroeder. I don't really want Schroeder.
No, fuck Schroeder. Nah, you don't want that nonsense. Let's get into a team that we are split up on, and because we have this is one of the biggest free agent signings that we haven't touched on yet. Kyle Lowry, Villanova grad from Philadelphia, signing a 3-year, $90 million deal with the Miami Heat. Talks was, that he was going to get traded during the season by the deadline. Didn't end up getting moved. They get their guy in Lowry here. It's a lot of money for Kyle Lowry. They also give a 4-year, $184 to Jimmy Butler for an extension. Both these guys in their mid-30s. It worries me a little bit. Dunny, talk me out of it. Why should I not be worried about the Miami Heat and what they're doing here?
So,
they also signed Duncan Robinson, 5 years, $90 million, which is fucking
crazy,
wild.
Crazy. I don't know if he deserves that money, but I think it was good that they re-signed him because they need a guy like that on this team. They need a knockdown shooter. He's been in the league such a short time. He's already one of the best volume shooters, percentage, clean, just the way it looks, the way it hits the nets. I mean, Duncan Robinson deserves his respect. This is a dude 4 years ago who was playing D3 ball, and now he's just signed a 5-year, $90 million, like you said. Right off the bat, love Duncan. Think it was a great signing by them. I get why people are worried about the Lowry Butler I'm a little skeptical myself, even giving Butler that much. I think it's clear he's slowed down a bit. I mean, he's still Jimmy. He's still going to fill the stat sheet. But I really like overall. I like the signings. I think this is the toughest, lineup probably 1 through 10, maybe even 12 that you'll see in the league. You have Butler, who's already a tough guy. You have Lowry, who plays, real tough with the chip on his shoulder, plays like the undersized guy his whole career. You bring in PJ Tucker, who I know you don't like the multi-year deal for PJ, but I think they do it for pure toughness. Same reason, the Bucks did this postseason and rode with him through the playoffs. He's just a guy who will bother people. He'll run up goon, if you will, to compare it to hockey. But I'm all.
I was wondering if we were going to lose him there or not. I hate the. Oh, are you coming back here? We back? I don't know what you were finishing up there, but I can't stand the PJ Tucker signing. That's I really can't stand the PJ. Because if he thinks him in that starting lineup, just there's no Duncan Robinson's gonna be getting a workout, bro. He's gonna be running around everywhere trying to get up those open shots. Because Lowry's a good 3-point shooter, so the spacing doesn't worry me as much there. But Jimmy does not. He doesn't even try to take threes anymore. Like he's basically Russ level with the amount he doesn't want to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like PJ will shoot a corner three, but I don't like I'm very skeptical of investing money into old point guards to begin with. Chris Paul has obviously been breaking that notion with what he's looked like, but Chris Paul is also on another level than a lot of other point guards in the league and in NBA history even. So Lowry, I still have faith that he can be effective, but it's never been good for short over 30 point guards unless they were really, really special. And I love Kyle Lowry, but do we think his year 35 is still going to be like really, really special? Like, did he just have his moment in Toronto? Because we've seen, I feel like this is a thing that maybe it's social media that's going to like accentuate this more or not or whatever. But in the past with free agency, like even 20 years ago, there had to be teams that signed all the washed up like vets, and everybody got hyped for all the big names, and it goes down. Like we've seen that happen over and over again. I mean, that Lakers 04 team that had Gary Payton and Karl Malone on it. Like that's one of the biggest examples I can think of. You never know when one of these guys are going to go down and just flame out. When you fall off the cliff, sometimes it's not graceful, and that's just what I worry about. And as a guy, experienced 2K GM as I am, I never try to have that many old guys on there as I can, because I feel like even if you're trying to decide between one or the other, you just want to skew younger for more chances at it because you've seen these guys go downhill so much. And Jimmy Butler's got a ton of minutes on him too. And then are you really like, so if those guys start to decline, then your next best bet is Bam Adebayo. And are we sure Bam Adebayo is ready for like leading a franchise with two older superstars? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think this year, if the move was to just try to win a title with this roster this year, and they just did what they had to do basically for that, it might not be a bad look because the East is wide open. There's going to be teams that get upset in the playoffs, I think, in the East this year, just because it's going to be so deep 1 through 8, whoever we end up with, barring any injuries or anything like that. Like the Knicks, we could have. I mean, it's just. Everybody there, from Brooklyn's out, and Milwaukee are obviously probably going to be the two favorites going into the year. But 3 through 8, 3 through 9, fucking throw a dart at the board. Shout out Meerkat. Like who knows? Like that could literally be. You could tell me Chicago's the 3 seed. You could tell me Miami's the 3 seed. You could tell me Boston's the 3 seed. You could tell me the Knicks are the 3 seed. Like any of these teams. Who am I forgetting? There's probably somebody else that's got to be in there. Like. Indiana's going to be better this year, being healthy and everything. Can't forget about them. The Cavs, obviously. I mean, come on. They're going to be – no, I'm kidding. But Charlotte, who knows with LaMelo healthy the whole year, what they're going to do.
I think I think that's why we're like kind of in between on this right now because I see the Heat as winners because I do think they could make a run for the finals again this year the way they constructed this offseason. You mentioned yes, they signed Lowry and Butler to longer deals than maybe other GMs would have, but you bring in Lowry, who I think at least right now is a step up from Dragic as far as just the way he fits with this team. Jimmy Butler is Jimmy. You know, he literally willed them to the finals a few years back. Bam gets better every year. But the biggest things I think are bringing in Markieff Morris, who's just, a small forward wing guy who can knock down shots, rebound. And then the sneakiest thing about them is that they got Oladipo back for 1 year. And maybe he's injured, maybe he's not. He's still an explosive guard who can really play in this league. I mean, we've seen it on multiple teams. Oladipo is a flat out talent, and they just have him kind of stashed away. And I feel like many people aren't talking about it, but I do think the Heat are ready to win now, and I think that's their goal. So I think just all things considered, what they did this offseason, that's why I see them as a winner.
We'll see. I like the sending it for this year. I think that's their best chance. I'm worried about year 2 and year 3, but
right,
man, I mean, the league doesn't even work like that really anymore because these guys can just be on the move in 2 years anyways. But you got to try to maximize that. Let's touch on the two teams we just talked about quickly there, the Nets and the Bucks, because they didn't do anything crazy here, but they really did help themselves. The Nets lost Jeff Green, but signing James Johnson, who's going to be a great addition to that front court for them. And then they also add Patty Mills as if they needed more shooting and creation from the guard position. I mean, and we saw it with like the Chiozza, whoever that, I can't even remember that dude's name. Him, Mike James, getting those minutes. You figure Patty Mills just kind of slots into there. And really, they're going to have a threat handling the ball at all points in the game for the Nets. I really like those moves for them, just on the margins at least. And Blake Griffin re-signed.
I was going to say they re-signed Blake, which I think is huge too. I didn't have that here in my notes, but I think re-signing Blake and then
Bruce Brown too.
Yep, Bruce Brown, who is, I mean, a real bright spot in the playoffs there, dude. There was games that this dude looked like an all-star. He did get ahead of himself a few games against the Bucks, but
a little bit,
But hey, we can't rag on him too much. He was making a name for himself, and it got him a contract. So there you go. I mean, we don't really need to say much about the Nets. I think they'll be, obviously back looking for conference finals again. They didn't get there this year, of course. They kind of flopped because of injury, but I think the Nets are what the Nets are, and they had a great offseason as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it was solid, and they're going to be the favorites. Either them or the Bucks are going to be the favorites in the East, you would think. The Bucks pretty much bringing it back here, getting Bobby Portis back. Obviously losing PJ Tucker, I think that might be a benefit for them though going forward, not being forced to play him all those minutes after that trade. They get Rodney Hood in there. They'll get DiVincenzo back healthy. Just a good little move. I'm wondering if Thanasis is going to come back. He hasn't re-signed yet, but I don't think you can mess that mojo. I think Costas is a free agent too. I think they should just get all the Antetokounmpos on the team. Honest, why not?
I think it would be a little wrong if they didn't bring back.
Yeah, they got to, right? Like he's got to be back on that team. It's just gonna matter of time.
I guess only real loss is they lost some shooting with Bryn Forbes.
Didn't I think right before we got on here, I'm gonna check to confirm this too, but they might have signed George Hill as well.
Oh, yes, I saw
$8 million deal.
Okay.
So George Hill is the Bryn Forbes replacement. I like that too.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's never really bad to have a player like that on your team, especially where he doesn't need to see minutes on this team, but he's a good plug-in guy and leadership. So yeah, I mean the Bucks should be in good shape again. I really like DiVincenzo being healthy for them. I think he's gonna do them a big favor. Bench scoring, spark, a little bit of explosiveness. I think Giannis is ready to run it back, and the Bucks are kind of keeping that roster solid. So another winner, if you ask me.
Yep, and then the Nuggets out west is one of the contenders, making small moves. That Jeff Green, a great pickup for them, kind of fits
Yes.
perfectly next to Jokic, especially offensively. And then they kept Michael Green and Will Barton, which is huge. I know that our boy Meerkat was worried about them not signing Will Barton, get him back. So
Will
they're
the thrill,
basically
baby.
they can run that back pretty much. But we have to come to it now. One of the biggest winners of free agency so far has been in the other team in New York City, the New York Knicks. This is not that what you're upset about is literally the last thing that I'm excited about the Knicks for. So I want to just
Well, I'm upset about Fournier too. So
well, that's true. I guess that's two Celtics that are on the Knicks now. I wasn't even thinking about Fournier.
And they were boys, dude. Fournier was like his favorite player to play with was Kemba, and now they're going to New York. And
you have to admit that Kemba just looks right in MSG.
Yeah, no, I'm part more than people think. I'm happy for Kemba, but I'm just pissed. I just don't want to see them succeed for the Knicks against us.
Well, so what worries me, so they obviously are getting Kemba after he's going to get bought out by Oklahoma City, and they will sign him to a deal probably around $8 million is what I was seeing yesterday.
It's crazy.
Fournier 4 years, $72 million, which the Celtics didn't want to put that kind of capital to Evan Fournier. They extend Julius Randle 4 years, $117 million, so he'll be back. They pretty much bring the whole crew back. They get Derrick Rose coming back, Nerlens Noel coming back, Taj Gibson back. So it's pretty much the same band back together, except adding in Fournier and Kemba getting those starting point guard minutes. But you have to think that, like, if Oklahoma City wasn't waiting on Kemba to deal him, unless they just really want to be bad next year again for whatever reason, his knees, whatever they're seeing, like they didn't think they were going to get great value for him if they're just buying him out right away. Unless Kemba was just like, hey, please let me go to New York. And in that case, maybe they just did right by him.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it didn't really make sense for Kemba or the Thunder to keep that relationship going for long.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly aren't in win now mode. Kemba in the part of his career where he kind of has to be in that mode. So I don't know. It just didn't really make sense. Obviously, like you said, you can kind of just see Kemba in New York, much better fit. That is the positive things that I will say about Kemba as a New York Knick.
I'm sorry that I saw that come down and I was like, wow, that is the quickest. Like, you've just gotten it all. You've got Kyrie to the Nets and then Kemba to the Knicks. Like, that is unreal turn of the coin.
Yeah, and it's fine, but let me ask you this, because this is something, and maybe I really want to know if this is my bias or if my basketball brain is on par with this one. If you have Kemba Walker, Fournier, who would their starting three be?
Barrett.
Oh, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and then Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel, slide in center, whoever it's going to be. Is that really a better starting lineup than Marcus Smart, Josh Richardson, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Rob Williams? Or am I crazy? Or are they better?
I'm going to agree with you because of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but
because they're the two best players named right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only reason the Knicks ended up ahead of the Celtics last year is Jaylen Brown got hurt at the end of the year. Like, I feel like that's a very convenient plot point to everybody's discussion about the Celtics this year, is forgetting that Jaylen Brown was hurt at the end of the year.
Right. So what they saw was Marcus Smart being our second option on the offense because Kemba wasn't playing against the Nets either.
Kemba had no knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I'm not as bullish on the Kemba move for the Knicks as I am. Like, Fournier is a great move, I think, for them.
I think so too.
They needed a guy that could just get a bucket, and he's inconsistent, but he can do that for that team. He can create that they didn't have. D Rose can start for all I care, really, honestly.
And quickly, right? They still
have quickly. Yeah.
They still have quickly. So that's where I think the Knicks were kind of probably like, not high risk, very high reward. I mean, if we have to do what the Celtics did last year, and I think this screwed with the Celtics chemistry. So I hope this doesn't happen for the next two, but him playing, not back to back, basically every other game for Kemba Walker because of his knees last year, the Knicks can honestly afford that. Like you mentioned, they have D Rose and they have Quickly. So if he can't be there, they have two legit options, or at least one legit option, and then like a guy who you have high hopes for. So
Best case
I,
scenario,
I
he
think the
fills
Knicks
it
are
up.
smart for this.
You
Yeah.
know, so. Yeah, I like it. We'll see how it goes. Definitely not the greatest turn of events, but the Knicks are gonna the league still the Knicks and Bulls are both going for it, and the league is much better when that's happening. It's a
Yeah.
little more exciting, so it'll be fun for that. Let's get into the two teams on opposite ends of the spectrum right now. From 2015 to 2019, the Cavs and Warriors doing battle in the finals, and they're both in kind of different spots of the rebuilds here. I think that they're both relying on young players in their own ways. The Cavs looking to make a breakthrough, looking to make the playoffs this year. Re-sign Jared Allen, 5 years, $100 million. That's a great deal for $20 million a year for Jared Allen if he keeps turning into what he is. That's really they traded for Ricky Rubio, and they get Evan Mobley in the draft. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, how do you feel about that pairing? That's really what I wanted to ask you, because I feel like there's been all the talk that they can play together. Mobley can play on the perimeter, but it's going to be really interesting to see it on the court. In theory, it sounds good, but it's still. I'm just wondering if anybody else feels any differently.
So in my head, I see both these guys starting a lot of games together, and I also see them not playing too many minutes together on the court at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like they're kind of splitting it up throughout the game.
I also think Jared Allen could be one of those backup centers who plays 25 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Just because of the way they move. Maybe Mobley's a starting center. Maybe he's a starting 3 or 4. I mean, he wouldn't be a starting 3 on this team, but a starting 4, and you have Jared Allen there at the 5 sometimes. I think they have a lot of options. I don't get why people are fixated on, these guys have to share the court the whole game. Like, I don't know.
Well,
I feel like they think
Larry Nance is going to get some run in there too. Like, he's going to play a lot. And I mean, Kevin Love's still on the roster, whatever he is worth at this point.
I don't know.
To show up. I have no idea.
K-Love's like a variable that you just need to like put to the side for now, because.
Well, what about Colin Sexton is the variable put to the side? Because I thought he was gone. He was
that should be the variable in front of our face right now.
Is he going to be gone, or are they just going to run it? Because I have not heard anything. And who really is, after all the free agency chaos and the point guards going everywhere, who's trading for Colin Sexton now?
Well, it's weird because apparently no one's signing point guards, because you do have Dennis Schroeder and Reggie Jackson still out there.
Because no one's got the money for him. And Sexton's going to want like $25 million. So I don't know what the fuck they might have just painted themselves into some corner that they're just gonna have to run it into the season with him maybe off the book. I don't know. That's what I'm worried about now too. Because who wants Sexton? You want Sexton? I don't even know what I want. Nah, I wouldn't even want to send him to Boston. The only team I can honestly think of is if the team that we're about to talk about, the Warriors, wanted to send Andrew Wiggins over to the Cavs for some reason and some other picks or something for Sexton, because they were looking for a guard. But the Warriors, they seem content. Like, they signed Steph to his biggest – Steph, the first player in NBA history. Get the bag, Steph. Love that, man. Oh, two contracts over $200 million. I mean, what a G. Like, you can't even – you just got to respect that hustle. At the beginning of the –
effortless.
At the beginning of the 2010s, he signed a 4-year, $44 million, which is the reason they could sign Kevin Durant, and now he's made $400 million on his last 2 contracts. So they gave it to him back. But we thought this team was going to trade Wiseman, trade all these picks, go get a star. They're going to go get Ben Simmons. They're going to go get, Brad Beal or Damian Lillard, or even a Pascal Siakam or something like that. Instead, they pick Moses Moody. They pick Jonathan Kuminga. And they're like, you know what? We're good. We're going to put these young guys in there. Steph does an athletic interview. He's like, I love the picks, love the young guys. They're going to be able to come in and contribute right away. We want to win a title. Are you buying it? They haven't really done anything else. They were in on Patty Mills, didn't get him. In on Danny Green, he ended up staying. The only big signing they had They got Bielitsa there and Otto Porter, who hasn't been able to stay on the court. I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Steph Curry. I have for a long time now. Should we keep the continued faith in Steph?
Yes. So I think they deserve to just, just for this podcast's sake and the teams we've talked about, I think they deserve to be in the loser column just because, they kind of just relied on draft picks. They only really signed Steph to a big contract, and they are running it back. They trust these young guys. I mean,
Yep.
we can both agree the two young guys they got are studs.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Kuminga is a high risk, high reward player, I think, for sure,
Yes.
more than anything. But Moody, I think Moody at his worst is going to be a very good defender and going to be able to be a 3-and-D guy in the league, no matter what.
Yeah, and then you bring in Otto Porter, who's really versatile. I mean, granted, like you said, he's seemed a bit washed up in the last few years, but think back to his Washington days. I mean, this is a guy who can just create his own shot. He's kind of like I don't even know. It's like a good pairing for like a fire and ice of Andrew Wiggins. It's like if you got Wiggins, who's like the explosive guy who can also create his own shot, but it's purely forced for Wiggins because he can use his athleticism to dunk on somebody or create his own shot through athleticism, where Otto Porter is kind of like, I'll grind you down with a dribble and hit like a smooth mid-range jump shot in your face to slow down the offense. So I like that. And Bajinka, I just think it makes sense for them to have kind of a stretch four guy who can just knock it down and just hit threes whenever they need it. I think Steph probably looked at the organization and was like, look, I'm getting Clay back. Draymond's still here. We have a great young center in Wiseman. We have the pieces on the wings. We have the two youngsters. So I'm bought in. Where I think they may have flopped in some people's eyes in the offseason, I think, like you said, we got to trust Steph here, dude. Like, I really think they could be Western Conference Finals bound.
And that's what I've kind of turned around and looked at it exactly like that, because if it works, like if they're right on these three guys, even two of the three, they're going to be, if they can be effective this year, they're hitting at a time. It's just going to work perfectly as a bridge for them to the future. But these are guys that also help extend the skills of Steph and Clay and Draymond and fit them perfectly. Like the Wiseman's the center they've always kind of needed. And then they have these two rangy wings who if they can get to be consistent shooters and everything, like it's the perfect pieces to go next to those three in a lineup. Those three guys could, in theory, like you see it, that they give them the lineup flexibility that they could want out of it. So I get it from that standpoint. I think it's a very, very interesting move by this front office to try to thread the needle like that, because it has so much more there's less margin for error, right? Like they're trying a very precise thing, trying to maximize this window with guys they think they can come in and contribute right away in a meaningful way, and then also be the future of the franchise. It doesn't usually work out like that. We've seen it happen a couple of times. We've seen guys have the rosters in place and it blow up for whatever reason. I think the last closest thing we can think about it like that is the Spurs, when we thought they had with Kawhi, right? And that wasn't even, no one even thought of Kawhi as highly as regarded as Moody and Kuminga have been regarded in this draft process. I don't think so, at least. Kawhi was not as a household name to me when he was coming up. He just kind of showed up. These two were both, top 5, top 10 pick consideration, and both fell out for their various reasons. But I think it's just a very interesting team building thing. And Steph, the thing about Steph is Steph's 31 right now. He can be on this Warriors team being effective, I think, for the next 10 years still, because he's just going to be, we've seen
how good his shooting is.
Yeah. Dude. Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, like they were able to be in the league for a long time just because they were just incredible shooters. And maybe Steph won't be as effective on the ball or whatever he ends up doing in the twilight of his career. He's going to be great. And I still think Clay, everybody, no one knows what to expect from Clay. I feel like he's going to be amazing next year. Like he's just going to look normal. I really have no reason to not. We've seen Durant. Look at Durant right now off the Achilles. looks great. He
Well,
looks like he's still an animal. And torn ACLs don't mean anything to me anymore. Like dudes come back from torn ACLs like nothing.
it's also kind of the thing you were alluding to with Steph, but like in a different way. Like the same reason Steph can play for probably the next 10 years is the same reason that Klay Thompson,
And Clay's
even if,
big. Clay's like 6'7" too.
even if he's a step slow, dude, he's still one of the best shooters this game has ever seen. Like, spot him up then if he's slow. Play these young guys. Play Andrew Wiggins a little more at the beginning of the year, and then let Klay get a shot under him. And this guy's knockdown. Even if you just use him as a knockdown shooter on the wing, he's still so valuable. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with his offense, and people don't understand it. And if someone's going to come in here and argue the fact that we're saying Steph can legitimately play at probably a high level for the next 10 years, I always go back to Vince Carter when we think about how long a jump shot can keep you in the league, because that dude was straight dunks for a decade of his career. And then every year he slowly got better at outside shooting, and he was able to play until he was 40 plus years old, and he was never a shooter to begin with.
Yep.
And this dude got a 3-point shot, and then people wanted Vince on their team. Not that, like, I mean, obviously the fundamentals are there, the IQ, the toughness, the household name. But if Vince Carter can do it at age 40 and he was never even considered really a jump shooter, then you better believe that Steph, the best shooter this game's ever seen, can play until he's 40 years old.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that those two are going to be effective in the coming years and this year especially. And if it works out, if all three of these guys hit in some regard, they're all at least decent NBA players, and maybe Wiseman and Moody are whatever. Those are the two guys that are touching all-star level or getting higher regarded, whatever. Look at that roster that you have set up. I wasn't even thinking about Wiggins. Like, that is a roster that you would want to. That is the perfect team building roster, and it's just a team that fits well together. And I'm been more intrigued as after the draft, looking at it, waiting to see it play out and how the tables have fallen for the Warriors. But I just think that what they're doing is bold as fuck. And it's going to be really interesting to see if they can hit it, because if they miss, they know that this draft was a rare opportunity, and last year with the Wiseman pick was a rare opportunity to kind of keep this thing going for as long as possible, right? They wanted to hit on those picks.
Yeah.
And I think just coming away with Moody and Kuminga, two guys that clearly have superstar potential, but they're just raw, and that has been their biggest thing. It's trusting your player development, which the Warriors say that they take pride in there. Developing players, developing roles for players and everything. It's a big test for that. It's a big test on that infrastructure of a former championship team. So I think that's one of the more interesting things. Anything else we need to get to before we go? Any other teams? I feel like we've pretty much covered all the big movers and shakers here. Mike Conley got paid. Shout out to him. He deserved it. That's pretty much the only thing I had, though. Anything else?
The only thing I can think of, I don't really want to end on a too much of a negative note. I just think we got to touch on the Kings as a loser. I really thought we would see the Sacramento Kings shake it up. It may be a Bagley trade, maybe a De'Aaron Fox trade, something. I mean, clearly what they're doing isn't working. I really, really, really love them taking Davion Mitchell. I think he was a steal, even though he went earlier than projected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got a dog. His first summer league game, he had 23, 3, and 3. So, I mean, he's already putting in work. I think it's great. I think I've compared this team to like the most likely to an AAU team on Twitter, I think, before. And they just have that. And you add a guy like Davion to play with De'Aaron, I think that's great, but they do need to shake it up because their off-season signings, they signed Rashawn Holmes long-term, 4-year, $55 million. I think that stinks. They also signed Alex Len, which, I mean, you talk about a run-of-the-mill C-plus center, that's Alex Len. And then Mo Harkless, who's been a role player on just about every team in the NBA. So, not impressed with the Sacramento Kings, but I do like on Mitchell.
I still believe in Mo Harkless. I'm just putting that out there into the world. Still believe in him.
I like Mo.
I love Mo Harkless.
I mean, he's not
St. John's. Shout out St. John's.
He's not moving the needle.
No, not quite. He's not quite moving the needle at all. Yeah, no, the Kings stay the Kings, man, in the worst way possible. It never change. And who knows what's gonna happen with Buddy Hield too. Was in some trade rumors there, so maybe he's on the move as well. Maybe they get Dennis Schroeder for Buddy Hield, essentially. That would
Yeah,
be
right.
horrible. We'll see. Yeah, no, not great for the Kings. Is there anything? Let's end it on an upbeat mode here. Actually, note, whatever the fuck word I'm trying to say. Upbeat note. Team USA, gold medal game
Yes.
tomorrow night against the French at 10:30 p.m. Are you worried about Rudy Gobert and the French?
Yeah, actually, Nick Batum and Evan Fournier. I'm a little more worried about those
Yasabelli?
two. Yeah, right. So wait, is that how you say it? Because everyone from Boston, I feel like, says Yabusele, and then I saw a pronunciation today, and I was like, I think everyone from Boston just says it wrong.
I think, isn't it Yasabelli? I thought so. I could be wrong though.
That's I
I
was seeing
searched
that on Twitter
Yasabelli.
today.
I just searched Yasabelli on Google, and you know what came up is like the correction, Semi Ojale.
That's lit.
awesome.
Oh, the Bucks signed Semi too. We forgot to talk about that when we were talking about the Bucks.
Yeah, good. The Giannis stopper. They needed him on their team.
Yeah, they literally brought in the Giannis stopper. That's smart. That's like a
You guys are right. It's Yabusele.
Yabusele. Okay.
Yabusele, yeah.
He's the king of the dab. He always did this on the Celtics.
You're right. They
But,
brought in the Giannis stopper. It's gonna get Giannis even more work in practice too. They'll just put Semi up against him all the time. Be like,
true, that's the
gotta
only
figure
reason
it
they
out.
signed him. They're like, oh, you're not getting any run in real games. You are getting thrown at Giannis in practice, and that's it.
Smart man. Smart move for the Bucks there, and for the Celtics for getting rid of Semi. That's a smart move by them.
Yes, I agree.
All right, so we ended with Yermin Yabusele talk, which is that's appropriate for this show. I feel like.
But yes, go Team USA. I know we're all over the place.
I don't have any breakdown. Yeah, I don't have a breakdown for any of it because I literally haven't watched one Olympic game. That shit's on way too late. They started at 12:15 a.m. last night. It's like and I stay up later. I'm a person who is not afraid to stay up late on a weeknight, but that's too much. That's like 2:30 in the morning. Hell no. We might have lost Dunny here at the end, anyways. I'll give him a second. Nah, we're just gonna cut it. Follow us at Happy Hour Hoops. Follow us at Trainwreck Sports. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, Happy Hour Hoops, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. This is a free agency recap. We're gonna take a little break for like a week or so here. Let free agency settle. Get the NFL season riled up, ready to go. Be sure to tune into the Crowd Assist podcast as well as our fantasy football, free money football too. Football season coming up. Gotta love it. And we will be back with some basketball content in a couple weeks as we get ready for the season. Peace.